Hey everybody, Super Bowl Sunday here for people who are not in the United States or Canada actually. Super Bowl refers to American Football Championship, and that's today, a little bit later today, so I'm going to make this one fairly short because I've got a lot of prep to do for that. But in any case, I wanted to make this quick video. I stopped by the bookstore, my local bookstore, on Friday evening and perused some books, one of which I picked up and looked through, World of Ice and Fire. I've read through that before, but I don't own it myself. Yes, shocking that someone such as myself, who is a fan, does not own the book. It is on my Amazon wish list, but I just haven't ponied up the money for it yet because I find that internet resources often have the information I'm looking for without me having to spend money on the book. Even though it's very nice, good illustrations and all that. But anyways, just haven't picked it up for myself yet. But sat down, was reading through it, just wanted to double check a few things, particularly relating to my theories on Dawn and House Dane. And I read through that, and I stumbled across something that's just been so obvious, and it's just been sitting there right in front of our noses, and my nose. I mean, I've been looking through this stuff, and I have this theory. But anyways, I haven't seen him mention it yet, and I just want to make a quick video to point you guys to it and hopefully solicit some thoughts here, because it's to me it's a very interesting concept. So, my interest in House Dane and their great sword Dawn was from this. It spawned from this concept of a star. In this case, Dawn was said to be forged from a shooting star that fell down, and they found this hunk of metal and made it out of it. And we've had now a few stories in the Thousand Worlds book club that have stars in them, or comets supposedly, or falling star, Menegray Water Station, and the Plague Star, where these turn out to be ships. And so, of course, I made the connection, well, maybe this could be some chunk of a fallen starship that fell down, they made a sword out of it. Well, there's another instance in A Song of Ice and Fire that runs somewhat along these lines, and in the context of the Plague Star, which we most recently did in the Thousand Worlds Book Club. This is very fascinating. I'm referring to the concept of the dragons. We have these dragons here in A Song of Ice and Fire. Supposedly they're controlled telepathically. This is interesting because we have the three dragons, Dany's three dragons that we have. We haven't really seen anyone use them, at least not use them very well. They seem to function somewhat autonomously. But previously, according to history, or maybe you could say legend, they were controlled, somewhat telepathically between the rider and the dragon. They were coordinating somehow, and it seems to be telepathic. And the origins, there's several origin stories. If you go look up in the book, you can look through a variety that they present in the book, World of Ice and Fire. But the one that's interesting in particular is that there was this story that there used to be a second moon of the world, and it got too close to the sun or something like that, and it cracked open, and all these dragons came down, and that's where the dragons came from, and that's how they arrived at A Song of Ice and Fire. And of course, if you're paying attention to the book club, and you've read some of these stories where you have, Menegray Water Station is a ship coming down, and in the Plague Star there is a star which supposedly brings the plagues, but in reality it's a ship. And then Bitter Blooms, I guess, is the other one where there's actually a ship sitting in the middle of this fantasy world. Well, to me it raises the question, for one, is this moon, in this case it's a moon, not really a star, so I guess maybe the analogy isn't quite the same, but it's still some celestial object that was orbiting this world, supposedly, and popped open and all these dragons came out. And in particular, if you're thinking in the context of the Plague Star, where the Plague Star is orbiting this world, and in the Plague Star there are reptiles, in this case dinosaurs, a T-Rex, which is wandering around on this ship. Well, I guess originally it was in these cloning vats, and then it hatched and then started wandering around the ship. And this T-Rex ends up being controlled telepathically at the end of the story. That seems to be an awful lot of parallels between the Plague Star and the functions of the Plague Star, and then this legend from A Song of Ice and Fire about where the dragons came from and how they came to be. And I guess it would be a little bit different because the dragons, in this case, at least Preston's theory on the genetics of dragons and dragon hatching, would be a little bit different. It's not quite like the tyrannosaurs where you're just cloning them and popping them out. These dragons are linked to Targaryens or old Valyrians, and so there's a genetic process involved there where there's some kind of symbiont relationship, I guess, somewhat between those particular humans and the dragons. And I guess if you're really going to relate this to the EEC and their genetic experiments, and you're thinking of the dragons as actually being a bioweapon rather than just some naturally evolved, organic biology. If the dragons really were a bioweapon of some sort, I guess that would sort of make sense. If you think of nuclear warfare, for example, nukes are obviously very powerful. The problem with them is that anybody who understands the science and has the right nuclear material can manufacture their own nuclear weapons, and so you have the problem of nuclear proliferation. Whereas with these dragons, if they're genetically tied to a specific strain of human beings, and only these particular human beings can hatch them, then you actually have a dedicated advantage. Somebody else can't come in and just grab dragon eggs and start hatching them, and then you have dragon proliferation and dragon wars against each other. The dragons are specifically tied to a very narrow range of humans, and only those can hatch them and control them and so forth. So it's a much more effective weapon. And I guess that's sort of the end of my theory. I just found out about this over this weekend and took some time to think over it and wanted to shoot this up really quick for you guys. But I'll do a little more digging into this as well. Just wanted to solicit any thoughts. If you guys, if this sparks an idea or something like that, you want to leave it in the comments. Let's talk about it. Otherwise, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.